You were taught that good means quiet, that to be soft is to be safe, that to resist is sinful, and to obey is divine. They said goodness is found in patience, in politeness, in shrinking yourself for others. You were rewarded for disappearing, for biting your tongue, for bowing to rules you didn't write. They told you evil was anger, that fire must be feared, that ambition is dangerous, that power is corrupt. But Nietzsche saw the mechanism. He saw morality not as a light from heaven, but as a tool, a system, a cage, a way to tame the wild by branding it wicked. What they call good is what makes them comfortable. What they call evil is what threatens their illusions. And so they gave you words, guilt, sin, virtue, humility, and said, this is your compass. But that compass only turns in circles. It doesn't point to truth, it points to obedience. Morality, Nietzsche wrote, is the herd instinct in the individual. It's not there to awaken you, it's there to lull you back to sleep. And every moment you accept it, you trade your flame for their approval. You were not born to please them. You were born to rise. You were not born guilty. But guilt found you young. It came with the smile that said, be good or you'll be punished. It came with the praise that felt like a leash, with the approval that only arrived when you bent yourself into something smaller. They called it character. They called it manners. They called it virtue. But Nietzsche saw it for what it was, a ritual of shrinking, a way to smuggle obedience into the bloodstream of children. They did not hand you values, they handed you chains wrapped in ceremony. Be kind, be humble, be nice, but never be strong, be dangerous, be free. Guilt was planted like a seed, not from your own conscience, but from theirs, and you watered it with fear, with silence, with shame, until it wrapped around your instincts like vines around a flame. Nietzsche wrote, the bad conscience is an illness, and the herd calls it morality. But it's not morality, it's memory, a memory of being punished for being too alive. You do not need to apologize for being what you are. You need to remember that your soul came first, and their guilt came later. They told you morality is universal, that good and evil are written in the sky, that right and wrong are timeless, unchanging, divine. But Nietzsche asked, who wrote these laws? And who benefits when you follow them? He knew what they don't want you to see, that morality is not eternal, it's historical, geographical, psychological. It shifts from tribe to tribe, age to age, ruler to ruler. What one era calls sacred, another calls barbaric. What one people call justice, another calls oppression. And yet they keep pretending these laws were born from the stars. There are no moral facts, Nietzsche said, and only interpretations. Morality is not truth. It's an agreement, a design, a way to shape behavior without force. It teaches you what to fear before you've lived. It tells you who to hate before you've thought. And worst of all, it convinces you that its voice is your conscience, but your conscience was born in silence. Morality was added later. The real question is not, is this right? It's, whose voice is this? And why does it want me to stay small? To begin to live, you must dare to doubt what the world called holy. Once, power was sacred, pride was a flame, instinct was clean, joy was not a sin. But the weak grew clever. They could not conquer the strong, so they rewrote the meaning of greatness. They turned pain into proof of virtue. They turned power into something to fear. They turned strength into something to apologize for. And then they taught it to the children. Nietzsche saw it for what it was. It was the weak who invented morality, not out of love but out of revenge. They could not rise, so they buried the definition of rising. They praised endurance, not because it was beautiful, but because it was all they had. They said, "Blessed are the meek. The last shall be first. Suffering is sacred." But that wasn't truth. That was a strategy. Slave morality is not about becoming. It's about taming. It's about keeping the powerful ashamed of their fire. And it worked. The noble spirit learned to bow. The strong began to ask permission. The joyful began to feel guilty. But no flame was ever born to make others comfortable. And no lion was ever meant to apologize to the sheep. You were not born to inherit their virtues. You were born to remember your own. Before guilt, there was glory. Before shame, there was strength. Before man learned to kneel, he stood tall with fire in his blood and pride in his breath. Master morality was born from those who had no need to resent. They didn't justify weakness, they honored power. They didn't wait for truth to be handed down. They declared it with their actions. They didn't ask, is this allowed? They asked, does this rise from me? Nietzsche wrote it clearly. The noble man creates values. He does not need approval, he becomes the measure. In master morality, good was what affirmed life, courage, clarity, will. Evil was what degraded it, cowardice, decay, deceit. There was no guilt in wanting more, no shame in dominating weakness, no apology for becoming. But the herd couldn't tolerate such clarity, so it buried this code beneath commandments and compromise. And yet beneath the layers of guilt, beneath the sermons and slogans, the noble impulse still pulses. It lives in the one who honors their instinct over the crowd, who dares to be proud without permission. You are not here to inherit values. You are here to create them. They didn't defeat the strong. They didn't need to. They made them feel guilty instead. They poisoned greatness with shame. They whispered into power's ear, you are selfish. You are dangerous. You should feel bad for what you are. The strong began to doubt their instincts. The proud began to apologize. The courageous began to ask for permission. And the herd smiled. Nietzsche saw it clearly. They took revenge by poisoning the consciences of the fortunate. It wasn't truth, it was strategy. It wasn't enlightenment, it was sabotage. They could not rise, so they pulled others down. Not with swords, but with morality. Not with chains, but with guilt. And the noble spirit dimmed, not because it lacked power, but because it was told its power was evil. The flame still burned, but it flickered in secret. This is how the strong learned to kneel. Not from defeat, but from corruption. Not from force, but from infection. But no fire forgets that it was once a sun. No soul built to soar stays small forever. You are not here to carry their shame. You are here to remember your flame. It starts as a flicker, a quiet fracture in the script, a moment where the inherited voice no longer fits your mouth. You begin to wonder, who wrote these laws? Why does virtue feel like a muzzle? Why does obedience make me disappear? This is the birth of the free spirit, the one who dares to doubt what others call holy, the one who does not hate morality but sees through it, who does not rebel for noise but for clarity. Nietzsche named him, summoned him. He who has unchained himself from tradition stands at the threshold of greatness. The free spirit steps beyond inherited rules, not into chaos but into becoming. He no longer asks, will this be approved? He asks, is this true? Is this mine? He turns away from borrowed guilt and toward the sacred unknown. He is not angry, he is awake. He is not reckless, he is real. And in his silence, the old voices scream, because nothing threatens the herd like a man who no longer needs it. To unchain is not to destroy, it is to breathe, to see, to begin. They trained you with treats and threats, praise when you obeyed, punishment when you questioned. They made morality into a leash, a bargain, a bribe. Be good and you will be rewarded. Break the rules and you'll suffer. But Nietzsche saw the game. You repay a teacher badly, he wrote, if you remain only a pupil. The free spirit steps off that stage. He does not fear hell. He does not chase heaven. He walks not for applause nor in fear of rejection. He no longer asks, will this bring approval? He asks, is this who I am? Is this what I must become? He moves from inner necessity, not from external bait, because reward and punishment are still chains, one velvet, the other iron. To truly be free is to rise beyond both, to act from alignment, not agreement, to speak from fire, not fear. And it will feel empty at first, the silence after you stop performing, but soon the silence becomes space, and space becomes strength, no longer controlled, no longer waiting, no longer bribed by love or blackmailed by shame. This is not rebellion, this is resurrection. They taught you to fear your hunger, to suppress your anger, to be ashamed of your desire. They called your instincts wild, your ambitions selfish, your fire unsafe. They told you to tame it, to numb it, to kneel before it. But Nietzsche saw it differently. Every instinct that does not vent itself outward turns inward and poisons us. He knew you are not broken, you are blocked. You were never meant to extinguish the flame. You were meant to wield it. Your instincts are not sin. They are signals, vital, ancient, honest. They do not speak the language of guilt. They speak the language of becoming. To unchain them is not to lose control, but to regain it, to redirect lust into creation, to channel rage into clarity, to harness chaos into order. The herd tells you to obey rules. The creator listens to rhythm, to the pulse of something deeper than law. Unchaining your instincts is not regression. It is return. Back to the sacred fire that was yours, before they called it wrong. You do not need to be safe. You need to be sovereign. They taught you to distrust your nature. Now it's time to let it lead. To walk beyond morality, you must first destroy it. Not blindly, not violently, but consciously, with eyes open and hands steady. You must tear down the altar they taught you to bow before, not because you hate it, but because you see it clearly. Good and evil were not absolutes, they were tools, scaffolding for obedience, maps drawn by frightened hands to trap the fearless. Nietzsche stood before it and declared, "The greatest event, God is dead, means the highest values have lost their value." This is not a crisis, it is an opportunity, a clearing, a sacred emptiness where truth can finally speak. You do not rebel for rebellion's sake, you rebel to reclaim what's yours, the right to define, the right to build, the right to rise. You will be called immoral, you will be called dangerous, but those are just the screams of a dying system that no longer owns you. To dismantle good and evil is not to fall into darkness. It is to step into light that has no master. You were not born to follow commandments. You were born to create fire. You were taught to obey, to follow rules, to avoid error. But Nietzsche asked a deeper question. Are you becoming more than you were yesterday? This is self-overcoming. The only true ethics, not morality, becoming. Man is something that must be overcome, he wrote. It is not about being good, it is about being true. Not about perfection, but progression. Not about fitting in, but rising out. Self-overcoming begins when you stop asking for approval and start asking for expansion. What makes you clearer? What makes you braver? What makes you more yourself? This is your compass now. This is your law. Not commandments from the sky, but fire from within. To live this way is to die many deaths, to shed skins, to confront shadows, to outgrow the self again and again and again. It is not comfort. It is crucifixion, and it is sacred. Because the one who dares to rise without blueprint, without reward, without applause, becomes the one who writes what it means to be alive. The moment you unchain yourself, you will feel it. The silence. No praise, no validation, no familiar voices saying, "You're on the right path," because you've left the path they built. You are no longer walking toward their heaven. You are walking toward your truth. And that truth is a cold wind at first. Nietzsche knew the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. The herd sees you and feels threatened, not by your violence, but by your difference, your fire, your refusal to return. They will call you lost, call you dangerous, call you arrogant. But what they really mean is, you remind me of what I gave up. Loneliness is not a flaw of the free spirit. It is a symptom of ascent. The air gets thinner the higher you climb. The world gets quieter when you stop needing its applause. This is not abandonment. This is initiation. You are no longer one of them. You are becoming what they never dared to be, alone but not adrift, unseen but not lost. This is the silence before your name becomes a myth. They told you the goal was to fit in, to adjust, to smooth your edges so the world could hold you. But Nietzsche gave you another task. We must become creators of values, not obeyers, not preservers, creators. Once the chains are broken, the real work begins. Not rebellion for rebellion's sake, but building something sacred from your own will. Most return to the herd after their first taste of freedom. They cannot stand the silence, they miss the map. But you are here to draw new lines, to write new meaning, to sculpt life with your own fire. Your values must not be inherited, they must be earned, fought for, bled for. You don't need permission to become, you need courage to be seen building in public without a script. You will be misunderstood, you will be mocked, but your creation is your rebellion, not violence, vision, not chaos, structure born from soul. You are not here to fit, you are here to forge. They told you to fear danger, to run from the edge, to seek safety as if it were salvation. But Nietzsche knew better. He knew that safety is a prison with padded walls. The secret for harvesting from existence, the greatest fruitfulness and greatest enjoyment, is to live dangerously. Danger isn't destruction, it is decision. It is choosing risk over rot, fire over comfort, truth over approval. The herd avoids danger and calls it wisdom, but their wisdom is just fear in a robe. To live beyond good and evil is to walk where there are no railings, no maps, no fences to catch you if you fall. And that is where real life begins, because danger wakes the instincts, sharpens the mind, forces you to see clearly, to act boldly, to feel deeply. Without danger, your soul dulls, your spirit sleeps, your will forgets how to rise. The path of the Creator is the path of the storm. You are not here to tiptoe through life. You are here to ignite it. Danger is not the cost. It is the proof that you are alive, that you are awake, that you are finally becoming what you were born to be. You've torn down their walls, you've burned the old maps, you've stepped away from the commandments you never chose. Now the sacred work begins, not destruction, creation. Nietzsche did not free you just to let you drift. He called you to build, to become the one who names what matters. What is noble? It is to give yourself law, and to revere that law as sacred. You are not here to inherit morality. You are here to forge value from experience, from depth, from pain, from power. Your values must rise from your bones, not your programming. They must burn in your breath, not echo from a pulpit. You do not ask, what is the rule? You ask, what makes me become? What strengthens what is highest in me? This is not about selfishness, it is about alignment, clarity, fire made clean. Each act becomes a brick, each refusal a boundary, each sacrifice a cornerstone. No one can build this for you, no one should, because a soul that builds its own values is a soul that finally becomes its own world. You are not the overman, not yet, but you are no longer the last man, no longer sedated, no longer obedient, no longer numb. You are the bridge, the breaking, the sacred in between. Nietzsche named your place Man is a rope, stretched between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. You feel both directions, the pull of comfort and the call of fire. The beast still tempts you with appetite. The herd still begs you to come back, but you move forward anyway, not certain, not clean, but real. To be the overman in process is to live in tension. It is to burn in both directions, to hold the storm and still walk. There is no map for this, no reward, no applause, only becoming, only the quiet knowing that you are shedding the past and stepping into something no one else can define. You fall, you rise, you fall again, and still you move, because this rope is your path, and the abyss is your test. You are not finished, you are forging, and that is more sacred than any crown. You are no longer waiting to be praised, you are no longer afraid to be condemned. You've stepped beyond the world's courtroom, beyond the labels, beyond their categories of good and evil. This is not nihilism, it is sovereignty. You no longer live by their measurements, you live by your fire, by your clarity, by your direction. Nietzsche didn't want you to destroy truth, he wanted you to birth it from within. You must become who you are, not what they expect, not what they applaud, but what your soul demands. To live beyond judgment is not to become reckless, it is to become real. You do not act for reward, you do not hold back from fear. You speak with precision, you walk with weight, you burn with vision that no longer needs validation. They may never understand you. But understanding was never the goal was to become what only you could be. This is the sacred life, not the perfect one, not the pure one, but the authentic one, the one that lives as a storm, as a flame, as a name written in fire on no one else's terms, beyond good, beyond evil, only you.